Have you ever felt like there's a voice inside your mind that never stops criticizing you? A relentless whisper, dissecting your every move, magnifying your flaws, and reminding you of every mistake you've ever made. This is not just an occasional doubt or a fleeting moment of insecurity. It is the ruthless inner critic, an entity that resides within most people, shaping their reality in ways they barely comprehend. Imagine standing before a mirror, staring into your own reflection. You should see a person filled with potential, yet all you notice are imperfections, past failures, and unfulfilled aspirations. You hesitate before making a decision, replaying past mistakes in your head, questioning if you're good enough. You decline an opportunity, convinced you'll fail before you even try. This unseen force doesn't just affect confidence. It dictates the very course of a person's life, holding them back from opportunities, relationships, and personal growth. This inner voice is far more destructive than any external criticism. When someone else doubts you, you can argue, prove them wrong, or choose to ignore them. But when the voice comes from within, it feels like an undeniable truth, something intrinsic to your identity. It begins subtly, a mere whisper questioning your abilities. Over time, these whispers gain momentum, embedding themselves into the very fabric of your self-perception. The mind, a powerful architect, takes these repetitive thoughts and constructs an entire identity around them. Instead of being thoughts that come and go, they become an internal law, an unconscious belief system that governs every decision. It's like an invisible script, dictating how you approach challenges, how you interact with others, and even how you perceive yourself in the world. But here's where it gets darker. This voice isn't entirely your own. It has been shaped, conditioned, and reinforced by external influences, the criticisms of parents, the judgments of teachers, societal expectations, and past traumas. What starts as external pressure transforms into a self-sustaining cycle, repeating the same narratives of inadequacy and limitation. The human mind is designed to recognize patterns and adhere to them, meaning that once negativity takes root, it continues to grow unless consciously addressed. Many people live their entire lives at the mercy of this voice, never questioning its origin, never challenging its authority. Consider this: how many times have you held yourself back from speaking up, from trying something new, simply because of an inner hesitation? The real trap is that this cycle becomes comfortable, familiar, even though it's destructive. But what if I told you that this voice isn't an absolute truth? What if, instead of being an integral part of who you are, it is nothing more than an echo of past conditioning, something that can be rewritten, reshaped, and reprogrammed? This is where the real mystery unfolds. You see, thoughts are not just passive reflections of reality. They are forces that actively construct it. What we think, we become. The internal dialogue we entertain fully affects our emotions, but molds our external circumstances in ways most people fail to realize. This is where ancient teachings and modern psychology intersect, revealing the hidden power of internal dialogue. If thoughts shape reality, what happens when we intentionally shift them? But before we explore how to dismantle this critic and reclaim our mental sovereignty, ask yourself this: if these thoughts were never truly yours, then who placed them there? And more importantly, how much of your reality has been shaped by something that was never meant to define you? The answer to this question holds the key to unlocking a profound transformation, one that will take you beyond the realm of habitual thinking and into a state of conscious creation. But to understand this fully, we must first uncover the insidious nature of repetitive negative thinking, the hidden trap that keeps people bound to self-sabotage. Imagine waking up in the morning, and before even stepping out of bed, your mind is already replaying yesterday's mistakes, predicting today's failures, and reinforcing the belief that tomorrow won't be any better. This is the invisible prison of repetitive negative thinking, one that so many are trapped in without even realizing it. At first, it seems harmless, just fleeting worries and self-doubt. But over time, these thoughts become patterns, and these patterns become habits, shaping the way we see ourselves and interact with the world. It's as if the mind, once caught in this loop, refuses to let go, anchoring itself in a false reality of limitation and fear. What makes this trap so dangerous is how deceptive it is. Negative thinking disguises itself as realism, making you believe that you're simply being practical or cautious. "I'm just preparing for the worst," you might tell yourself. But in reality, you are reinforcing a cycle of self-sabotage. The more you engage with these thoughts, the more they solidify until they become part of your identity. You are no longer someone who has occasional doubts. You become a person who identifies with failure, with unworthiness, with lack, and the mind, being the powerful architect of reality that it is, starts filtering the world to confirm this perspective. Opportunities go unnoticed, successes feel like accidents, and struggles feel inevitable. Consider this: you receive a job offer, but hesitate, questioning your own worthiness. You tell yourself, "I'm not good enough," and instead of embracing the challenge, you decline the opportunity, reinforcing the very fear that held you back. This is how negative thoughts dictate action or inaction without you even realizing it. Even worse, this mental cycle offers a strange sense of comfort. There's a false safety in believing that things won't change, because if you expect the worst, you won't be disappointed. This is why so many people cling to their limiting beliefs, even when they are painful. Breaking out of this pattern requires not just recognizing it, but understanding its origins. The world conditions us to be cautious, to be critical, to expect difficulty. Society often mislabels these struggles as a lack of discipline or motivation, when in reality, they are deeply ingrained mental habits formed over years of repetition. No one is born thinking they aren't good enough. It's something learned, absorbed from external influences, and repeated internally until it feels like truth. But here's where things get interesting. If a pattern of negative thinking can be formed through repetition, then the opposite must also be true. What if instead of reinforcing doubt and fear, the mind could be trained to cultivate confidence, clarity, and strength? Throughout history, great thinkers, mystics, and philosophers have uncovered the immense power of thought, but this knowledge has remained hidden from most people. What if this entire cycle of self-sabotage could be reversed? The key lies in understanding that thoughts are not just passive reflections of reality, they are creative forces that shape it. This brings us to a critical question. If your thoughts have been unknowingly shaping your reality in ways that limit you, what would happen if you took conscious control over them? This is the doorway to transformation, one that only a few dare to step through. But before we explore the ancient wisdom that reveals the power of thought, we must first confront an uncomfortable truth. You have been programmed to think this way. And once you realize that, you hold the key to breaking free. For centuries, hidden within the teachings of mystics, philosophers, and esoteric scholars, there has been a fundamental truth. Thought is not just a fleeting mental process, it is a force, an energy that actively shapes reality. The ancient principle of mentalism, as taught in Hermetic philosophy, states that the all is mind. The universe is mental. This idea is not metaphorical. It is a profound revelation that everything we experience is first conceived in the mind. Before anything takes form in the physical world, it exists as an idea, a perception, a possibility. When this knowledge is understood, it becomes clear that self-talk is not just an internal monologue. It is a creative tool with the potential to construct or destroy one's entire reality. This wisdom has been echoed across civilizations. The Rosicrucians, deeply rooted in mysticism and philosophy, believed that thoughts held vibrational frequencies that could align individuals with higher states of being. Buddhist traditions teach that the mind is the architect of suffering or enlightenment, depending on how it is conditioned. The Kabbalists, studying the mystical dimensions of existence, understood that words and thoughts serve as bridges between the material and spiritual worlds. Even modern psychology, in studying cognitive behavioral therapy, recognizes that repeated thoughts shape neural pathways, reinforcing beliefs that dictate emotions and actions. These insights, spanning cultures and centuries, converge on the same undeniable principle: the way we speak to ourselves is the foundation upon which our reality is built. But how does this work in practical terms? Imagine two individuals faced with the same challenge, one who repeatedly affirms their resilience and intelligence, and another who constantly doubts their ability to succeed. The circumstances they encounter may be identical, but their internal narratives lead them down vastly different paths. The individual with positive self-talk will subconsciously make choices that align with growth and confidence, while the other will hesitate, second-guess, and ultimately sabotage their own progress. This is not mystical wishful thinking, it is the practical application of an esoteric principle. The energy of thought attracts corresponding experiences, influencing perception, reaction, and ultimately, results. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, who famously failed thousands of times before successfully inventing the light bulb. When asked about his failures, he reframed them as necessary steps in the process of discovery. Had he succumbed to negative self-talk, he might have abandoned his pursuit entirely. Instead, his belief in possibility fueled his persistence, proving that perception shapes outcome. This principle applies to everyday life, whether it's overcoming self-doubt in career aspirations, improving relationships, or even healing from past trauma. When thought patterns shift, so do the actions and opportunities that follow. If self-talk is truly this powerful, then it is no longer a matter of whether it should be changed, but how it should be changed. Can an individual who has spent years, perhaps decades, trapped in destructive internal dialogue truly shift their reality through a new way of thinking? The answer lies in the understanding that transformation is not instantaneous. It is a process of mental training, discipline, and conscious repetition. This is why ancient schools of thought did not merely teach philosophy, they provided rituals, affirmations, and structured techniques to reprogram the subconscious mind. The mind, like a muscle, requires consistent conditioning in order to shift its patterns. So, if the teachings of the ancients hold that thought is the architect of reality, the next logical step is to apply this principle deliberately. And this is where things take an even more fascinating turn, because there exists a structured practice designed to shift internal dialogue within just 3 days. But how can such a short period truly make a difference? What happens when someone commits to consciously controlling their thoughts for 72 hours? The answer to these questions will unveil a transformative technique that has the potential to rewrite self-perception and, by extension, reshape the external world. If thoughts truly shape reality, then the power to transform our lives lies in mastering the internal dialogue. But changing a lifetime of negative self-talk may seem like an insurmountable challenge. This is where the 3-day mental reset comes into play, a structured approach to rewiring the mind through conscious thought control. This experiment is not about blind optimism or wishful thinking. It is a test of mental discipline, a deliberate act of reshaping perception to see just how quickly internal narratives begin influencing external reality. And the results can be astonishing. Day 1: planting the seed. The first day is about awareness and intention. The goal is to become acutely conscious of every self-directed thought, intercepting negativity before it takes root. This is not about forcing positivity, but about observing the patterns that have long dictated behavior. Every time a self-critical thought arises, it is acknowledged, halted, and replaced with a neutral or empowering statement. For instance, instead of "I always mess things up," one might think, "I am learning and improving every day." Writing down recurring negative thoughts and their positive counterpoints reinforces the shift. By the end of the first day, many report a heightened sense of mental clarity, as if breaking free from an invisible weight they didn't even realize they were carrying. Day to the test. By the second day, the mind starts resisting. The old patterns fight for survival, and external circumstances seem to reflect the doubts still lingering beneath the surface. This is the most challenging phase because the subconscious attempts to revert to familiar cycles of negativity. Obstacles may arise, unexpected frustrations, moments of self-doubt, but this is the critical turning point. Instead of reacting emotionally, the challenge is to remain steadfast in mental discipline. Whenever an old belief creeps in, it is countered with an intentional thought of empowerment. This day is about endurance, proving that with persistence, thought patterns can indeed be restructured. Those who push through often notice a shift in emotional state, less anxiety, more control, and a growing sense of inner strength. Day 3 transformation begins. The final day marks a profound realization. Thoughts that were once automatic and negative now face resistance, while empowering statements begin to feel more natural. It is as if the mind, having been guided in a new direction, starts adapting to its reprogramming. Small but noticeable external changes may also appear: unexpected opportunities, improved interactions, or a newfound sense of confidence. What once seemed like a forced practice now starts feeling instinctive. This is not the end of the transformation, but the beginning of lasting change. The key now is consistency. Those who continue this practice beyond the 72-hour period find that their internal dialogue no longer sabotages them, it empowers them. So here is the challenge: can you maintain an empowering inner dialogue for just 3 days? It might sound simple, but the experience reveals just how deeply ingrained negative thinking has been, and how quickly it can be altered with focus and intention. But what happens beyond these 3 days? How do you turn this temporary shift into a lifelong habit? The answer lies in mastering the art of self-talk, a skill that holds the key to self-mastery and ultimate transformation. The 3-day mental reset is just the beginning. While it proves that a shift in self-talk can create immediate internal and external changes, the real transformation comes from long-term mastery of internal dialogue. What if, instead of battling negativity periodically, you trained your mind to work in your favor every single day? This is not about forced positivity, pretending challenges don't exist. It's about cultivating a state of mind that allows you to face life with resilience, confidence, and clarity. Mastering self-talk is the key to self-mastery, and those who develop this skill gain an unshakable edge in life. Reprogramming the subconscious through repetition. The subconscious mind absorbs patterns through repetition, the same way years of negative reinforcement create deep-rooted self-doubt. Intentional, empowering self-talk can rebuild a stronger internal foundation. This is why daily affirmations, mental rehearsals, and mindfulness practices are so powerful. The key is consistency. Instead of reacting impulsively to self-doubt, you respond with deliberate, empowering language. For example, replacing "I'm not good at this" with "I am improving and learning every day" creates a shift in mental pathways over time. Just as a muscle strengthens through repeated training, the mind adapts to the language it is consistently fed. The power of morning and nighttime mental conditioning. How you begin and end each day sets the tone for your mental state. The first few minutes after waking up and just before sleep, when the mind is in its most suggestible state, consciously programming your thoughts during these moments can drastically influence how you navigate life. Instead of waking up to mental chatter about stress, imagine starting the day with an empowering affirmation: today, I navigate life with confidence and clarity. Before sleeping, visualizing positive outcomes for the next day imprints the subconscious with a blueprint of success. Those who implement this simple yet powerful practice often notice heightened mental clarity, emotional balance, and an increased sense of control over their thoughts. How internal dialogue shapes external reality. Self-talk doesn't just affect how you feel, it directly influences how you act and how others perceive you. Someone who speaks to themselves with encouragement and belief exudes a different energy than someone trapped in self-criticism. This shift impacts opportunities, relationships, and even the way challenges are handled. The most successful individuals across all fields have mastered their inner voice, whether they realize it or not. By adopting a mindset of resilience and self-empowerment, life begins to unfold in ways that align with your highest potential. Your external world is simply a reflection of your internal dialogue. Turning self-talk mastery into a lifelong practice, mastering self-talk is not a one-time event, but a continuous evolution. The secret is to make it a daily practice rather than a temporary exercise. Journaling thoughts, repeating affirmations, engaging in self-reflection, and maintaining emotional awareness all contribute to lasting internal transformation. The goal is not perfection, but progress, a steady shift toward a mindset that naturally reinforces success, confidence, and emotional resilience. This journey never truly ends, but those who commit to it experience levels of self-mastery that set them apart. So now, the question is, what would your life look like if every internal thought worked in your favor? The challenge is not just to think differently for a few days, but to cultivate a mindset that empowers you for a lifetime. Try this for yourself, and if you've experienced a shift, share your story in the comments. Your insight may inspire someone else to take control of their own mental dialogue. And if you found value in this journey, subscribe for more transformational content that will take your mindset even further.